Obi-Wan Kenobi's art direction was nothing short of fantastic, with everyone from Ewan McGregor to Reva looking perfect. At the same time, the Grand Inquisitor's design wasn't exactly everyone's cup of tea, as it was just way too goofy looking, especially in comparison to his animated look. Thankfully, it seems like the big man Dave Filoni's got all the answers for us. Let's dive in and find out how he got that look. First up, the Grand Inquisitor's design leaves much to be desired. When the Grand Inquisitor walked out of that ship for the first time in Obi-Wan Kenobi, it felt pretty jarring, to say the least. After all, unlike other characters like Reva, he's already an established presence in animated shows like Star Wars Rebels. So for anyone who's coming into this off the back of that show, the design differences can feel a bit uncanny. For instance, in his OG form, the Jedi Hunter belongs to a race of aliens called the Pau'ans, and their whole visual shtick's that they've got these long heads with red marks and glowing eyes. Now obviously, it's not hard to tell if someone's evil if they've got these menacing features on their face. Besides his smug bad guy looks, what sells it in Rebels. The Grand Inquisitor in Obi-Wan, on the other hand, looks super tame and not intimidating at all. Like, he could have been someone's sidekick who comically falls into a trash can, and we wouldn't have batted an eye. Yep, he looks that bad. On top of that, the shape of his head's been changed as well. We mean, there's nothing wrong with adapting stuff, but come on, isn't having a non-round head one of the most basic rules of designing a bad guy? So yeah, we could nitpick a billion things about his look. Up next, the showrunners had to change the Grand Inquisitor for practical reasons. Okay, let's dial back on the criticisms for a bit, because the truth is, the showrunners probably know better than us. Besides, Disney still got Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau running the whole thing, which means that we should be in safe hands when it comes to this stuff. And apparently, the Grand Inquisitor's design direction has a lot to do with practicality. You see, while it's perfectly possible to elongate someone's head by using makeup and other techniques, it doesn't translate well to the on-screen action. For instance, if there's a scene with some lightsaber action or quick movement, then it's pretty much impossible for the actor to replicate that without losing balance. Oh, and of course, there's always the possibility of using CGI, but at that point, is spending all that money on such a minor thing even worth it? With that said, perhaps the biggest reason for adapting Vader's disciple into his live-action form is to keep things manageable. Like, apparently, the whole head makeup and prosthetic setup was such a pain to act in that Rupert Friend had to take breaks in between his scenes just to cool off. Plus, in an interview with Jimmy Kimmel, he even admitted that he sweated buckets while he was there. So, maybe not adding a bunch of extra makeup on top of that wasn't such a bad call in hindsight, huh? Now, Dave Filoni had some advice for the design team too. When it comes to making Star Wars stuff, no one does it better than Dave Filoni. Like, he's the guy who's pulled the franchise out of its slump, and to be honest, most fans would say that he's the true successor to George Lucas, especially in terms of expanding his vision and lore. Besides, he's already proven himself to be an incredible creator with shows like The Clone Wars, Rebels, and The Mandalorian. Oh, and if you don't know already, he's also currently running the whole Star Wars universe in tandem with Jon Favreau on top of directing the upcoming series Ahsoka. So yeah, he's definitely got the chops to handle this stuff. Now, as we've already discussed, fans didn't really like the Grand Inquisitor's design and directed their criticisms at the showrunners. However, according to the Lucasfilm prop master Brad Elliott, it was Filoni who advised the team to adapt some parts of the Jedi Hunter for a live-action setting. For instance, he said that they should redesign the double-bladed lightsabers to make them look more in line with human proportions, rather than those super long ones we see in the animated series. And apparently, he told the team to not copy everything one-to-one, and instead think of the animated material as an exaggerated version of the live action. So, in a way, he kinda switched them around and asked everyone to imagine that the CGI shows came after these live adaptations, which is definitely an interesting way to look at things. However, Filoni never specifically asked to shrink the Inquisitor's head. Alright, so while Dave Filoni did advise the team to make a less exaggerated version of the Grand Inquisitor for Obi-Wan Kenobi, he never actually referred to his head or costume at all. Instead, it was more of a direction for the props team, as those lightsabers in Rebels were obviously way too over the top. We mean, we wouldn't have complained if Reva casually started spinning her blade and flew away with it kinda like a helicopter, but obviously, you don't want Star Wars to turn into Looney Tunes. So, did the design team misinterpret his comments by shrinking the Jedi Hunter's head? Well, not really, because at the end of the day, making him more human-like and practically feasible also falls under the same category. On top of that, maybe having a long head and glowing eyes would have made him look more goofy IRL anyway. Like, we've all seen Ki-Adi-Mundi from the prequels, right? The guy straight up looks like a bizarre sex toy rather than a Jedi Master. Yeah, maybe we'll reserve judgment until we know what the Grand Inquisitor would have looked like if it was a one-to-one translation. Oh, and let's not forget, a lot of things go into live-action adaptations as compared to an animated show. We mean, extra facial prosthetics can even disrupt an actor's ability to show emotion or deliver dialogue in a compelling way. So even though it wasn't what we wanted to see, maybe it was for the best anyway, since Rupert Friend still managed to deliver a stellar performance. Also, the Grand Inquisitor's design is peak Star Wars. Now, if you want Star Wars to turn into the super high-quality universe where everything looks incredible and all the aliens are convincingly real, then we've got bad news for you. You see, this franchise has never been that, and honestly, that's kind of the whole charm of this galaxy. Like, just go and look at a goofy Yoda from the original prequel cuts or the Cantina band playing music. They're all hilariously bad. However, that's kind of the point of it, since it just adds that extra bit of humor and interesting stuff without even trying. We mean, Star Wars barely has any proper jokes in it, and yet fans can't stop reminiscing about some of the funniest moments in the series. Of course, you gotta pick and choose your moments for this stuff, especially considering how dark and gritty Obi-Wan Kenobi's supposed to be. And maybe people have a point about the Grand Inquisitor's design, but come on, we know you like Kit Fisto's weird expressions during that battle scene in Attack of the Clones. Also, just in general, it feels like fans get stuck on visual details a lot these days and love to zoom in on stuff just to criticize it. However, we've got to remember that these things are meant to be enjoyed and not dissected apart like that. So, perhaps sitting back and embracing the fun in this incredible universe is the healthier way to go anyway. And finally, is the Grand Inquisitor coming back for Season 2? Now, Obi-Wan Kenobi was initially marketed as a limited series, which meant that it wasn't going to have more than one season. However, after all the hype and viewership numbers, it seems like Disney's gearing up to renew it for a second season. And, to be fair, the show's ending kinda gave that way too, as Obi-Wan met Qui-Gon's Force Ghost again. But of course, when you've seen him fight Darth Vader, what other stories are there even left to tell? Like, haven't we reached the highest stakes possible already? Well, we'll have to wait for that answer. With that said, one thing's for sure, if we do get another season of Obi-Wan Kenobi, then you can bet that Rupert Friend's coming back to reprise his role as the Grand Inquisitor. After all, we know that he goes on to live well into the Rebels era. Oh, and perhaps with a bigger budget this time around, maybe they'll have better prosthetics and makeup for him too. Also, they could potentially use the Vader suit's water cooling system for the Jedi-hunter, so that Friend doesn't have to sweat literal buckets while he's trying to act in there. So what do you think? Should Disney renew Obi-Wan Kenobi for a second season? And where do you want to see it go next? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.